My fiancé said, "Monday he signs the lease and then he's stuck." I replied, "I am not signing." I saved the clips, canceled the lease, and bagged her key. An invoice screenshot hit my email and a thread called "Close Friends Clean Up" spelled out the plan. Then a knock came at 8:10 p.m. The first thing that hit me was a voicemail snippet that was only 6 seconds long. A man's voice said my name, then a pause, then, "You deserve to know what she's been saying." I stood there with a box of relay parts in my hands and felt my stomach drop. I am Orson Pell, 42 years old, and I live in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. My apartment sits over a quiet insurance office, and the hall always smells like lemon cleaner. I keep my boots lined by the door, my work jacket on the same hook, and a tiny espresso machine that coughs every morning like it is mad at me. I fix railroad signals for a living. I replace cracked lenses, test relays, and log every fault so trains do not get a bad message at the worst time. That job trained my brain in one habit: a signal check before you move. Her name was Maris Kincaid, and she was 40. She worked as a licensed pharmacist at a busy retail store near the Altoona Mall. People trusted her voice, and she knew how to sound calm even when she was in a rush. We were engaged, but we lived in our own places. The plan was to sign a lease for a townhouse in Duncansville by Monday at 10 a.m. The deposit was due the same morning, and if we missed it, the landlord said he would give it to the next couple. That deadline made everything feel urgent. We had lists on my fridge, spare keys in a ceramic bowl, and a tape measure on the counter from planning furniture. Every time I looked at that deposit date, I felt like I was stepping onto a platform with a train already coming. The voicemail was from Dashiell Noor, one of Maris's friends. He was 39 and ran a small glass-blowing studio that did weekend classes and custom pieces. He was the kind of guy who always smelled like cedar smoke and wore a watch with scorch marks on the band. I called him back while I leaned against my truck. He did not ramble or act excited. He just said, "She told the group you are too sensitive to handle real women." I did not yell. I did not ask for 10 more stories. I only asked, "Did she say it like a joke or like a fact?" Dashiell sighed and said, "Like she was proud of it." Then he added, "I'm sorry, man. I thought you should hear it from someone who won't twist it." That night, Maris came over with groceries and kissed me like nothing was wrong. She put the bags on the counter, turned on my little kitchen radio, and started humming. Watching her act normal felt unreal, like someone smiling during a fire alarm. This was our first confrontation. I asked, "Did you tell your friends I'm too sensitive to handle real women?" She did not blink and she said, "I said you take everything personally and it gets exhausting." I kept my voice steady and said, "That is not what I asked." She crossed her arms and replied, "Orson, you need thicker skin. That's just how my friends talk." She said it like she was setting a rule for me: cold, calm, final. And in that moment, I wondered what else she said when I was not there. I went quiet for the rest of the night. Here is my first practical advice: if someone mocks you in public and calls it a joke, do not rush to prove you are not hurt. Wait and watch what they do next, because patterns tell the truth faster than speeches. 2 days later, she texted me, "Townhouse deposit is Monday, don't forget." That was the line that kept echoing. Not "Are you okay?" Not "I'm sorry." Just a reminder like I was a calendar app. I felt something in me tighten, like a bolt turning the wrong way. Friday came, and she said she had a late work training dinner. She said it was mandatory and she could not skip it. She told me not to wait up, and she added a smiley face like that made it warm. That night, I did a signal check at work on the last shift. A relay in a trackside cabinet was sticking, and the metal smell was sharp in the cold air. I kept thinking, when a relay sticks, you do not argue with it, you replace it. At 11:47 p.m., Dashiell sent me a message that just said, "I hate this, but you need to see it." A second later, a short clip loaded on my phone. It was from Maris's private story, shared to a close circle of friends. She was laughing with 3 women in a booth. Her voice was bright and mean at the same time. She said, "He can't handle me. I'm way out of his league." I watched it once, then again. The camera swung and I caught the edge of her pharmacy badge on a lanyard. Behind her, neon letters reflected in a mirror and the song thumped so hard I could almost feel it through the screen. My hands did not shake yet. My face felt flat, like all the emotion moved deeper. And I knew I was done, even before I knew the whole story. Here is practical advice number 2. When you get a clip like that, save it and step away. Do not reply in anger because anger is loud and proof is quiet. Dashiell texted again and said, "She posted more before she deleted it." He sent one more clip. In that second clip, Maris held up a paper and laughed. "Monday he signs the lease and then he's stuck with me." She tapped the paper with a long nail and I recognized the top page. It was the townhouse lease packet we had picked up earlier that week. That was the big twist because it meant the deposit was not just a move, it was a trap she bragged about. I did not call her. I did not send a single word. I sat at my kitchen table and listened to my espresso machine click as it cooled, and I felt my whole life rearrange in silence. The next morning, an invoice screenshot landed in my email. It was from a lounge called Neon Finch, with a total that made my jaw lock. It showed a private booth charge, bottle service, and a tip, and the last 4 digits matched the credit card I used for our engagement dinner months ago. That was my money proof. She still had my card saved with that place, and she used it while laughing about me being too sensitive. It was not just disrespect, it was entitlement with a receipt. I did not confront her right away. I needed facts stacked in a clean order, not a messy fight. A signal check is not one glance, it is steps, and I kept taking them. I called the landlord for the townhouse and told him we would not be signing. I asked him to email me confirmation because I wanted it in writing. He sounded annoyed, but he sent it, and I felt a strange relief when it hit my inbox. Then I did the quiet moves that protect you. I removed Maris from my renter's insurance policy as a beneficiary. I changed my building entry code and my mailbox key because access should match trust. That was the start of my silent breakup. No speech, no long message. Just a clean exit, like I was stepping off a train before the doors locked. On Sunday, Maris came to my place to review the lease papers. She walked in like she owned my air, set her purse down, and asked why I seemed distant. Her face stayed calm and her eyes watched me like a test. This was our second confrontation. I pushed and said, "Where were you Friday night?" She replied, "At a training dinner I already told you." I said, "You posted a private story from a lounge." Her jaw tightened and she snapped, "My friends recorded that. It's not a big deal." I held my phone up, not close, not dramatic. She smiled once and said, "You went looking for reasons to be hurt. That's your hobby, Orson." She tried to flip it into my fault, like my feelings were the crime. She acted like she was above it, like I should be grateful she even explained. And right then, I knew any talk would be used against me, so I did not argue. I walked to my closet, pulled out a small tote bag, and placed her things inside with care. A spare toothbrush, a sweater, the book she left on my shelf, and the extra key she once asked for. She stared at the bag and said, "What is this?" I did not answer. I only set it by the door and looked at the floor until she picked it up. She left without shouting. She left with a scoff and a hard breath like she wanted me to chase her. I did not chase. That night, I met my lawyer, Ephraim Kester, at a 24-hour auto shop waiting room on the edge of Altoona. The chairs were cracked vinyl, the coffee was burnt, and the TV played old fishing shows with no sound. Ephraim was 65, calm as stone, and he read the clips like he had seen this movie too many times. He gave short guidance, no lectures. He told me to keep proof, keep my replies short, and avoid public posting. Then he said, "Silence is a boundary, not a punishment if you hold it clean." On Monday morning, I did my final signal check on the lease decision. I sent Maris one line, "I am not signing and we are done." That was it, no blame words, no insults, no paragraphs. She called 7 times, I did not answer. She texted, "You're really doing this over a joke?" And I did not answer. 2 days later, Dashiell called me again. He sounded tired and angry at the same time. He said, "She's panicking. She's telling people you dumped her because you can't handle a strong woman." I said, "I'm not correcting her." He paused and then said the kill shot line that stuck with me. "Orson, she doesn't look strong. She looks cruel and she thinks cruelty is confidence." That line hit harder than any insult because it was simple and true, and it made me feel less crazy for walking away. A week passed, then another. I stayed in my apartment, went to work, and kept my head down. The air in the rail yard smelled like oil and wet leaves, and the relay clicks sounded like patience. Then I found my location proof by accident. Maris had left her blazer on the back of my kitchen chair weeks earlier. When I lifted it to move it, a paper stub slid out of the pocket and skidded across the floor. It was a parking garage ticket stamped with the neon Finch address and the exact time of the private story clip. That killed the training dinner story without me saying a word. Location and time, printed in black ink with no emotions attached. I took a photo of the stub, then I put it in an envelope. I was not collecting trophies. I was protecting myself in case she tried to rewrite reality harder. That same day, the killer receipt arrived. A hidden email thread came to my inbox with the subject line, "Close friends clean up." Maris had accidentally typed my email when she meant to type another friend's address, and now her whole plan sat in my hands. In the thread, she wrote, "If he gets weird, we blame his sensitivity." Another friend replied, "Post the story, then delete, he won't see it." Maris answered, "He will sign Monday. Once we move, I set the rules." That was not rumor. That was her own writing, and it came straight from her choice to mock me behind my back. I did not send it to the world. I did not reply to the thread. I forwarded it to Ephraim, because that is where proof belongs when things get messy. Here is practical advice number 3. If someone is lying about you, keep your proof private and share it only with people who can help. Public fights feel good for a minute, but they cost you peace for months. I learned later that someone from her close friends list sent the clip to her pharmacy manager. The clip showed her in her work badge, and in one frame you could see prescription bins in the background. That triggered a corporate compliance review, because their policy was strict about patient spaces and social media. Maris got pulled off the schedule while they investigated. Then the state pharmacy board requested a statement after the manager filed a report. She called it unfair, but she filmed it, posted it, and laughed while doing it. Dashiell broke from her friend group after that. He told them he was done watching her step on people for fun. The social shame fallout was not loud, but it was real, because the same friends who cheered her started keeping distance. 2 weeks after I ended it, I heard a knock on my door at 8:10 p.m. When I opened it, Maris's mom stood there with a damp coat and swollen eyes. She was crying and she asked, "Orson, what did you do to my daughter?" Maris stood behind her, arms crossed, face blank. This was our third confrontation, and it arrived with an audience I did not ask for. I stepped back and let them into the entryway, because I was not going to slam a door on a crying parent. Maris spoke first, and she denied. "He's lying," she said, voice calm and sharp. "Those clips are edited and my friends are stirring drama." Then she minimized. "Even if I said something, it was just a private joke," she added. "He's too sensitive, so he ran away." Then she partially admitted with a shrug. "Fine, I vented," she said. "I was stressed about the move and he was acting distant." Then came the emotional move. Her voice cracked and she pointed at me like I was the attacker. "You abandoned me," she said. "You humiliated me by leaving me in silence, and now my life is falling apart." Her mom started sobbing harder. I kept my hands at my sides and spoke slowly. "I did not edit anything," I said. "I did not post anything. I only walked away after I saw how you talk about me when you think I am not listening." Maris's mom looked confused and scared, like she did not know what was real. I said, "I'm sorry you're hurting, but this is between me and Maris." Then I added, "Please don't come back here again." Maris tried one more time. "So you're just done, like I meant nothing?" she asked, and her calm mask slipped into anger. I nodded once and said, "Yes." They left with no screaming. The hallway smelled like rain and old carpet when the door shut. I leaned my head against the wood and felt the quiet hit like a wave. A few days later, I moved out of my place early. I rented a temporary room above a greenhouse nursery outside Tyrone. It smelled like soil and wet plants, and the heater clicked all night like a tired metronome. Work stayed steady, and I kept showing up. I replaced a row of failing signal heads near the curve by the river and trained a new hire on relay logs. A month later, my supervisor offered me a lead role because he said, "You don't panic. You do a signal check and fix the problem." Maris tried to reach me once through a certified letter. She wrote that I ruined her reputation by leaving. She also demanded I return gifts she had given me, as if love had a return policy. Ephraim answered with 3 sentences and ended the thread. Dashiell and I stayed in contact, at first as friends. He invited me to his studio, and I watched him shape glowing glass into a simple bowl. He said, "Heat shows what things are made of," and I understood exactly what he meant. Months passed, and the board complaint ended with a formal reprimand and mandatory training for Maris. She lost her chance at a promotion, and the store transferred her to a different district. I did not celebrate it, but I also did not save her from the consequences of her own laughter. One crisp evening, Dashiell asked me to meet him by the Little Juniata River. We sat at a quiet park table with takeout noodles from a small corner shop, and the water made a steady sound. For the first time in a long time, my chest felt open instead of tight. I looked at the river and thought about trains and signals and the way life moves forward. When a light is wrong, you do not argue with it, you stop and correct it. I did my signal check, and I chose a route that did not include someone who mocked me in the dark. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.